welcome you all to our 5th annual and first virtual talent management forum. It's an exciting event as each and every year. I do want to acknowledge that we are still in a pandemic, and of course with that also acknowledge the hardships that both individuals and organizations have been going through over the past few months. At the same time, I think with every challenge, of course, comes opportunity, and the pandemic has proven as a source of innovation for hopefully many of you. It has definitely proven to be a source of innovation for higher education, for us at California Lutheran University, and especially the School of Management. So the topic of today is not only new, exciting, and relevant, but it also has to be seen as an evolving topic in the context of the crisis or the challenges that we're currently managing through. And as a business school, that's exactly what we're interested in and what we're doing and what we are considering as part of our responsibility towards students and the community to identify trends and new topics of interest, and to do that not only in the classroom for our students, but also at events like this one and through networks for the community in which we exist and work and which we serve, frankly. I would probably not be a good dean, of course, if I didn't also use this opportunity to provide a little plug for our programs at the School of Management. Some of you may know that California Lutheran University is a mid-sized private liberal arts university along the 101 corridor in Southern California. The School of Management is a sizable school with, within the university with approximately 500 students on the undergraduate and 500 students on the graduate side, with a wide range of undergraduate majors and graduate programs that range from information technology to public policy and administration to traditional management programs and some industry-specific programs. And I'm particularly proud to say that just a few days ago, the San Fernando Valley Business Journal, a major influential publication along the 101 corridor for the business community, has ranked our MBA program the #1 program in the region, which makes us very proud, but it also makes us realize that we do have a heightened responsibility to continue to improve and serve our community. With that, I want to introduce the next speaker, our new and 8th president of California Lutheran University, Dr. Lori Varlotta, who has just recently joined the university from a college in Ohio. Before that, she has served at several academic institutions in senior academic leadership roles, including more than a decade in the California State University system. So Lori, we're glad to have you at the university, and we're glad to have you at the Executive Management Talent Forum. Lori?
Thank you very much. It's good to be here. So I want to thank Vlad, and I want to thank Gerhard and the entire Forum Advisory Council for inviting me to say just a few words this morning. I've been at the university for 2 weeks, so when Gerhard says I am the new president, new is the operative word here. And I'm very pleased to be getting a number of early invitations to participate in forums like this one. These early invitations give me a very strong inkling of the type of partnerships and programs that units throughout the university, but particularly our School of Management, has with business leaders throughout the region and the state of California and beyond. And as I said, only in my 2nd week, I'm learning very quickly just how strongly positioned our School of Management is within Southern California. And this week alone, I've already gotten a couple of invitations to serve to deliver opening remarks to forums like this, which demonstrate the level of engagement that our faculty here have with leaders outside of the campus community. I applaud very loudly the efforts of our professors in the current position in terms of the current pandemic and in the Forum Advisory Council, in maintaining our leadership connections, our networks, sharing information, and bringing us together in this virtual new world. But as highly successful businessmen and women, I know that you, perhaps more than others, can appreciate a CEO's commitment to maintaining our core business functions in good times and in bad times alike. And the core business function at a school like CLU, which is a small to mid-size private liberal arts and science institution, is to deliver the kind of face-to-face, right now mask-to-mask instruction and services that set us apart from other schools, particularly those in Ventura County. We're the only small private liberal arts four-year institution here in Ventura. And amidst these challenging times, we need to figure out ways to be highly creative and highly constructive and productive to both abide the rules and regulations of a highly regulatory state, and yet to offer the kind of instruction and student services that our students not only demand but expect. So in the coming days, you will be hearing a little bit more about CLU's plan to phase in a return to work and a return to study plan. It will set us apart from the CSU, that of course is a large behemoth and perhaps can't pivot understandably as quickly as we can. But we will be working methodically to bring faculty back, to bring students back in careful and safe ways. Our facility folks have already put numerous tents outside. We're going to start some classroom instruction under the tents. We have makeshift meeting circles that are being constructed as I speak to you right now. Fitness tents are going up and more. So as you listen to the cutting edge commentaries today about AI and digitalization and robotization, which we're very interested in at CLU, at the same time, we are interested in maintaining the face-to-face, or for right now, the mask-to-mask, high-touch education that our students so desperately want and need. We're all in this together, and I'm very glad that I'm in it with all of you. I look forward to hearing a little bit more about this forum and the presentations that you were going to offer today. Thanks for having me join you.
Thank you very much, Lori. Looks like we jumped ahead a few slides. So
sorry about that.
Just go back. And in the meanwhile, while Diana is putting up the slides, let me introduce you to the host and main organizer of today's event, Dr. Vlad Weiman, who is not only my colleague and partner in crime at the School of Management, but also a dear friend over many years. And those of you who have been participating in the Talent Management Forum previously, or who have known either Vlad or myself for a while, know that I'm not the only person who holds Vlad in high regard. He is one of the scholars who has put the academic discipline of talent management on the map at academic institutions globally. He is widely published in academia and also highly regarded in industry as a consultant on the topic of talent management. Vlad is Associate Dean and Professor at the School of Management, and he's highly regarded also by students in this role as an instructor, as a scholar, as a teacher. So Vlad, thank you for your partnership at the School of Management, and thank you for putting on this event.
All right, thank you, Gerhard, for this wonderful introduction. I don't know how to follow that, but let me try to talk to all of you about the future of work and automation and employment, which is the topic of today's conversation. And it seems that I do have a remote control now, right, Diana? Let's see. Let's see. Yeah, I do. Wonderful. So today we're going to talk about workforce in the age of digitalization, artificial intelligence, AI, and robotization, and challenges for talent management. And this is the main topic of our today's conversations, panel discussion, as well as our keynote speech, which is coming up right after my introduction. As always, I'm trying to do a little overview of the topic in academia, how academics look at a particular topic, and new ideas that both academics and practitioners come up with in order to move this agenda forward. Before we begin, let me show you and go through a couple of definitions so that we're on the same page. First of all, automation is an umbrella term, and it refers to the application of machines to tasks once performed by people, or to tasks that would otherwise be impossible to accomplish. Artificial intelligence and digitalizations are therefore applications or derivatives of automation. Artificial intelligence, AI as we call it, right, is the simulation of human intelligence processes by machines, especially computer systems. And you know that there are many applications of AI, such as natural language processing, speech recognition, for example, machine vision, and many others. And digitalization, again, is another derivative of automation, is the process of converting information into digital format, but not only that, but also integration of all of those digital technologies into everyday life. Well, we need to acknowledge that the future of work is finally here, maybe not finally for some people, but it is here. And thanks to increased digitization, the modern workforce needs a new approach to daily job. Yet most businesses, however, still lack an overall strategy to manage the business of work. This is unfortunately resulting in a workforce that's becoming increasingly frustrated with spending too many hours on small, unfulfilling, and sometimes insignificant tasks that are really not getting them anywhere. It is a fact that businesses built with a digital core tend to outperform those with a traditional operational model. According to a recent piece of research by McKinsey, digitally driven organizations are more profitable than their industry competitors. And it's been proven time and time again. And it's therefore no surprise that adoption of emerging automation technologies such as RPA and AI is on the rise. And I think our keynote speaker today will be talking more about some of those applications in real life setting. A recent survey of 3,000 organizations found that about 37% of global companies have now implemented AI in some form. And then the number of companies utilizing AI has increased by, look at that number, 270% over only past 4 years. So instead of relying on traditional business processes being operated by people, by office workers or engineers or managers, etc., a growing number of companies now depend on automation and artificial intelligence to run their core business processes. Well, let's talk about the digital transformation strategy, the content, the what of digital transformation strategy. As companies continue to progress along this digital transformation journey, as they call it, it's extremely important, vital, that they have a clear roadmap aligning their digital strategy to the overall business objective. And I always tell my students that anything you do in your organization has to be tied with business objectives, because otherwise it makes no sense. It's just a waste of money and time. So to do so, there are several factors that they must consider. The challenging and changing, the nature of work is number one. A commitment from top executives. Just like in talent management in general, you cannot succeed if you don't get commitment and support from top executives, and the upskilling of your current workforce. Let's talk about changing the nature of work first. The deployment of digitalization is helping companies and allowing them to run in a more efficient manner, as robots take on the more repetitive and time-consuming tasks. And this is freeing up human time and actually helps trained, skilled experienced, educated professionals to focus on their highly skilled functions and more interpersonal roles that artificial intelligence and automation in general still cannot replicate, at least to the point where it would make sense. The second point I was making is in regards to commitment from top executives, if you remember. And before any transformation, especially data-driven transformation, can take place in the organization, it's essential that transition takes place at the executive level first. What do I mean by transition? Executives must understand, must realize the benefits of all of those emerging technologies. They have to have the foresight to ensure the technology they choose will help them to achieve their overall business objectives. Again, use of technology, especially in people management, not for the sake of using technology, but for the sake of helping them to achieve their overall business objectives in a more effective and efficient manner. And only then the benefits of automation become clear not only to them, but more importantly to the rest of the organization, because buy-in is extremely important. And again, I hope that our keynote speaker will also address that component of a buy-in, not only from the top executives, but throughout the organization. The third component I mentioned was upskilling the workforce. Both management and employees with new capabilities and a thorough understanding of the possibilities that AI and automation in general can bring in need to be a priority for companies looking to become digitally driven. And therefore, think about that. Talent management efforts, since again, both management and employees have to be involved and have to become a priority, talent management efforts, therefore, are of foremost importance. And I'm not tired of repeating the same mantra year after year. PwC comes up with the CEO surveys. At least 78% of CEOs worldwide name talent management as their top priority. The second top priority is leadership development, which is also tightly connected to talent management. So we talked about the content, the what. Let's now briefly discuss the how, the process of the changing nature of work. Any company can really use talent management approach and really, just think about it for a second. Just as new talent pools a team, artificial intelligence, for example, must be set up to succeed rather than to fail. So when we take both of those components, they should work hand in hand. So the following three phases of implementing artificial intelligence in a company is a result of studies that addresses the how, the process of artificial intelligence. Let's just take AI as an example of this, just to show you how the process works. So the first phase, you can use your AI as your assistant. And it's quite simple to understand. Data sorting or help in decision making. And that would be the role of an assistant. For example, AI would be used to identify the choice an employee is most likely to make, given their past choices, and would suggest that choice as a starting point when the employee is faced with multiple decisions. So artificial intelligence is looking for past choices as a starting base point. And then when the employees faced with multiple decisions, AI helps to speed that process up rather than actually doing the job for the employee, just speeding the process. So it's the first phase. The second phase is so-called the monitor. When you set up the AI system to provide real-time feedback to employees, which is very important. Thanks to machine learning programs, AI can now be trained to accurately forecast what a user's decision would be in a given situation, not necessarily based on your all universal previous decisions, but in a given situation, of course, absent lapses in rationality. If a user is about to make a choice that's inconsistent with their history, the system just simply flags the discrepancy. And this is especially helpful during high volume decision making, when human employees may be tired or distracted. Like, for example, if you work as an airline traffic controller or something to that effect. Phase 3 is called the coach. Modern employees want to get performance feedback on a daily or a weekly basis. And all of us working with employees as managers, we all know it, especially with the influx of millennials and Gen Z people. We all know that they want immediate feedback or at least frequent feedback. The capabilities of artificial intelligence could easily generate feedback for employees, enabling them to look at their own performance and reflect on variations and errors. A monthly, for example, summary analyzing data drawn from their past behavior might help them better understand their decision patterns and practices and learn from that. So the fourth approach is that of a teammate. In this final phase of AI implementation, companies would develop a coupled network of humans and machines in which both contribute expertise. Imagine that. Both contribute expertise in solving an issue, resolving a problem, or just performing certain tasks. As AI improves, and it does, from day to day, and it improves through its interactions with individual users, analyzing and even modeling experts by drawing on data about their past decisions, past behaviors. A community of experts, both machines and humans, will or are supposed to organically emerge in organizations that have fully integrated AI. I have to tell you that while the first three phases have been already implemented or are being implemented in most organizations, the fourth phase remains a bit aspirational for most companies. But this is something that we all should strive for, especially when managing talent. A few more words on implementation. All of us know adopting new technologies, whatever they are, is a major challenge, right? It's always the case. Because of its potential impact, especially on the workforce, especially on your talent, AI may be perceived as particularly difficult to implement. Because again, when we deal with people, we deal with emotions. And sometimes it's difficult to overcome those emotions, difficult to overcome resistance. However, as pretty much with everything in life, when it's done mindfully, adoption of artificial intelligence can be fairly smooth. And this is exactly why companies must ensure that AI's design and development are responsible, especially with regard to transparency, decision autonomy, and privacy. And that it, meaning the design of your artificial intelligence system in the organization, engages people who will be working with it. Not only the top management, not only the IT people, but also those people who will be working with that particular AI. With a responsible design, it may become a true partner in the workplace, rapidly processing large volumes of data in a consistent manner to enhance the intuition and creativity of humans, who will in turn teach the machines. So it becomes a continuous loop. People teach the machines, machines teach people, and the loop continues. Well, automation and artificial intelligence are here to stay, whether we want it or not. But some people are not happy. And the same people, experts mostly, ask this question, as you can see on your screen. Why would humans be needed when machines can do a better job in general? And these fears are, they're propagating throughout industries and through national borders. And this fear suggests that organizations need to be careful when introducing it to the people who are expected to work with it. But I always say, be not afraid. It's not all that difficult. It's science, but it's not rocket science. Next slide. So, artificial intelligence is not showing any signs of slowing down. Soon it will become another necessity of life, just like the internet or smartphone. For now, more and more businesses are beginning to realize how invaluable AI in particular and automation in general are. And the machines will take some jobs, no doubt about that, in the beginning. The jobs created by automation will also keep increasing in the next few years. And let me show you the benefits of artificial intelligence. First of all, it's safe to say that AI will help us to create new jobs and new opportunities. According to the recent World Economic Forum report, robots and AI will create as many AI jobs as they displace. And that's an encouraging sign. It's easy to identify some of those careers in artificial intelligence. For example, data scientists, right? We'll need more and more data scientists who will evaluate the decisions made by AI algorithms to make sure that they eliminate any biases. And speaking of biases, I didn't want to say AI will eliminate bias. I said it may eliminate bias because it will still require interjections by humans in order to make sure that those biases do not play any role, because automation is blind. It will initiate some positive changes in the workplace, I'm sure of it. And when AI is used during recruitment or performance management, for example, all workers will be evaluated in an unbiased, fact-based manner. In turn, hiring managers can get to concentrate on other essential strategic undertakings that ensure balance in the workplace. Again, it's not either AI or people. It's a combination of those important factors. What else? AI will steer business strategies, 100%. Just in a few years from now, AI-oriented architecture will take the lead in assisting businesses to carry out operations in a more comprehensive way. So it will help you lead strategies and concentrate on business outcomes that are connected once again to your business strategies. AI will also boost innovation in the workplace of the future. The workforce of the future will lean more towards innovation and creativity. Businesses have spent many years studying artificial intelligence and automation and how they can leverage them to achieve results fast. And with workers spend up to 40% of their hours at work performing repetitive tasks, every business should consider automating any function that can be automated. I also think that robotics and artificial intelligence will boost productivity in the long run. They have unlimited potential for any business. According to a report by PwC, about 54% of businesses confirm that implementation of AI-driven solutions in their companies has already improved productivity, which is a really good sign. Oops. There's another slide on productivity. Worker skills, attitude, training, command chain, workforce protocols are some of the leading productivity challenges that companies face. And apart from increasing productivity, AI can cut down costs, which is extremely important for all of us, especially nowadays in the times of crisis. They can also improve quality of products and service, and what is also important, create business and more accurate customer profiles for organizations. So the future of work is here, and we cannot escape it. The best strategy is to embrace it. That's what I recommend, and make it work to your organization's advantage. To do that, companies need to A, attract, B, deploy, C, develop, D, retain qualified talent that will be able to navigate them through this rough, uncharted, but exciting waters. And with that, I would like to conclude my introduction in my presentation. Thank you very much for standing ovations. But more importantly, my friends, what I want to do is I want to introduce our keynote speaker today. Diana, can we have a next slide? Thank you. Peter Zirhat, ladies and gentlemen, is a senior level manager at Haas Automation, one of the world's leading manufacturers of high technology and industrial machinery. Peter is responsible for oversight of several departments, including Haas Automation's HTC branded education program, comprising more than 3,000 institutions around the world that utilize Haas's machine tools for CTE and engineering training. Additional responsibilities include government relations, community relations, and liaison to Haas's racing operations in NASCAR and Formula One. Mr. Zirhart's career at Haas spans more than 35 years, with experience including management positions in manufacturing, sales, marketing, and information technology. He led the sales team during the early years at Haas, establishing product sales and distribution channels. As head of marketing, he oversaw the development of new marketing programs to help establish the Haas brand name. Mr. Zirhart is currently a member of the management committee at Windshare Inc., a high technology automotive and wind tunnel owned by Haas Automation and located in Concord, North Carolina. He spent 2 years during the startup of Windshare from 2008 to 2009, assembling the management team and establishing the business processes in place today. Current volunteer roles include board member and manager of the Gene Haas Foundation, board member of the Economic Development Collaborative of Ventura County, member of the Workforce Development Board of Ventura County, board member of the National Institute of Metal Working Skills in Fairfax, Virginia, and most recently board member of Workshop for Warriors in San Diego, California. Mr. Zirhart currently resides in Camarillo. He is married with four children and 1 grandchild. Ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, Mr. Peter Zirhart.
Thank you for that rather lengthy introduction, Vlad. I appreciate that. And good morning, everyone. Automation is in our name and it's in our blood. Haas Automation was born in 1983 of an idea that manufacturers and job shops could benefit from affordable automation products and precision machining applications. This morning, I'm going to try and paint a picture of how we deal with talent management in a factory with a relatively high level of automation. I'll start by talking about automation in general, followed by our own experiences automating our operations. But this is a talk about talent, and talent is people. So I'm going to follow with an explanation of our challenges finding and retaining the best talent to build and maintain automation in our own factory. I'll finish with some recent challenges as a result of the current pandemic. Okay, just making sure I have control. And I do. Okay. So automation means a lot of different things to different people. To many, it's a vision of machines taking the place of workers. Is automation the end of work as we know it? 60 years ago, people seemed to think so. Take a look at this 1950s era film on the subject of automation.
Machines without human beings. Machines without human beings, that uncanny spectacle is automation. A foreboding, frightening word. A word to send a shudder through a man or a woman or a child, even in periods of full employment, when wages are decent, jobs are plentiful, and times are good. But during a depression or a recession, when men and women and children seem to be in overproduction, then automation is a word to strike terror in any human heart, especially if that human heart beats in a wage earner's breast. Now people know in a general way what automation means. 150 years ago, the world went through something called the Industrial Revolution. We found out how to build machines that could perform much of the mechanical work men and women used to do. Machines replaced the muscles in our backs and arms and legs, but you still needed human beings to direct the machines, to do the thinking, to do the brain work. But now automation provides machines that do the brain work, that make the decisions men and women used to make in the factories. Electric eyes, limit switches, tapes, punch cards, servo mechanisms. Everybody knows that, but what does this mechanical brain plus a mechanical muscle do to people, to jobs, to the way we live? Will whatever happens happen automatically? Can we do anything?
It's kind of hard to believe that this video was created just 61 years ago. Most concerns raised in the last century have turned out to be a false alarm. Since this video was produced, businesses have continued to improve efficiency, and today we enjoy a higher standard of living measured by income, GDP, and economic opportunity. Maybe this is a better picture of the current state of automation and artificial intelligence. Okay, so some of these images are a bit of a stretch, but the point is that anything that can be automated will be automated. In the following video, we'll focus on people and automation inside our own factory.
It's a great day here in California. I'm down in Oxnard and I'm pulling into Haas Automation. 1.5 million square feet of American manufacturing done on an elite level.
How you doing, Titan? Brian O'Fallon.
Brian, nice to meet you.
Pleasure to meet you.
Scott.
Yes, sir. Nice to meet you.
Very nice to meet you. I am so excited about today. It's going to be an awesome day.
So I started at Haas Automation 10 years ago. I was working at another job that wasn't challenging me. I wanted to come down and get my hands on machines and actually build something.
I want the viewers to be able to take this tour. I want them to see just this amazing plant and how you guys have taken automation to such a huge level and how you guys make all your products here in the great United States of America.
Well, excellent.
That's going to be awesome.
We're glad to have you here. Let's show you around. We're pretty proud of everything
Cool,
we've done.
let's do it, man. Hey, Brian, I got to tell you, man, this place is just amazing.
It's enormous, isn't it?
Yeah, I got a question for you.
Yeah.
What about, like, female employees? Do you have a lot of ladies that do
Actually,
machining?
we do. Maria works right over here.
Awesome, and she's running a machine?
She actually runs 3 machines.
You're operating these machines right here?
Yes.
These things are like massive.
I know, they are huge.
Yeah, and you just keep them under control?
Yes, under control everything.
Making good quality parts, huh?
The best.
American manufacturing, it doesn't matter what gender you are, what race, religion, it's all about America and making quality parts, and we can do it better than anybody in the world. It's a pleasure to meet you.
Pleasure to meet you too.
Keep making it American made.
American woman.
Yes, American woman making
Yes.
American products.
Yes.
Right here in Oxnard, California.
Oh yes.
Boom.
Yes, boom.
Okay, so here we are in our grind cell.
No, it's moving right now.
So right now it's working with some air gauging, and then when it's done, it'll put in a raw part, then step and repeat the process. So this is actually the spindle shaft blank that just came back from heat treat. We ran these on the Haas robot cells earlier.
What's the tolerance?
1/10,000th of an inch.
1/10,000th of an inch.
1/10,000th.
So if you took a human hair and divided it by 30,
That's the tolerance we're talking about.
across this whole surface.
Hey Titan, here's a finished part, and just to give you a sense for the kind of tolerances we're holding, just the heat from my hand holding this is going to change this dimension ever so slightly.
American quality.
Hey Titan, let me introduce you to Steve Burmeister, one of our managers at the shop.
Very nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
This has got to be like the single most impressive array of pallets that I've ever seen right here.
Absolutely. Probably largest in the United States. Lights out, unattended.
And you run all weekend, lights out?
Lights out.
Done.
Absolutely. Even though we have a lot of automation here, we still have 1,200 people that work here. They're highly talented. They get the job done. We believe in automation. We believe in America. We believe in Haas.
What you guys are doing here at Haas Automation, making all your own products, doing all your own assembly, shipping these amazing machines out across the world so companies all over the place can make their own products is just absolutely amazing. Haas machines making Haas machines, man. This was a small company, it was an American dream, and it's just expanded and flourished, and you guys are leading the way and showing other American companies how it's done, man.
we take a lot of pride. We're glad to show it off, and building here in America means a lot to us. So what you do means a lot. We appreciate it.
Awesome, man. Thank you.
All right, man. Travel safe.
All right.
Thanks again.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Take care. We'll be seeing each other soon.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so in this video, you saw some of the people and systems in the factory designed to improve our manufacturing processes. You saw Maria working on a multi-million-dollar machining cell. You saw a large number of automated machines, and behind those machines are trained workers playing a key role in streamlining all the processes throughout the factory. But why automate in the first place? Well, there are a number of reasons why we feel it's imperative to invest in automation within our own factory. So first is the ability to compete against a large number of competitors from around the world, including those in Europe, Japan, China, Korea, and Taiwan. Like most industries, being able to compete is essential to our survival and growth, and improvements made through automation allow us to, one, build products in a more cost-effective manner, two, maintain consistent high quality, and three, improve our ability to deliver products fast. Second, automation is a solution to the challenges of hiring and keeping a skilled workforce, but not in the way you might think. It's not only about eliminating labor. It's about eliminating the labor-intensive, repetitive, mundane, and monotonous jobs in the factory in favor of a more challenging and rewarding job that keeps people interested and engaged in their work. I realize that automation means different things to different people. To us, automation is intelligence, process automation, and central to all the people who develop and manage the automated systems. This image provided by an automation developer illustrates the traditional components of automation. See how our vision of automation aligns: intelligence or data, process automation, and people. Not to downplay the importance of facilities, equipment, and materials, but those are given components in any automated system. Let's dive deeper into the three components that we believe are most important. First, under intelligence is artificial intelligence, which embraces machine learning, language recognition, and vision, all concepts that have made their way into factories in one way or another. Automation's been around since the Industrial Revolution, but as you saw in the 1950s video, AI was sort of the stuff of sci-fi writers back then. And just as automation has progressed, so artificial intelligence has advanced. By bringing the two together, automation achieves all the advantages allowed by intelligence. So fast forward to 2020, and AI is part of everyday life. Many of the systems you saw on the Haas tour include AI of some sort. The second piece is data, which is key to the intelligence. Without data, we can't make informed decisions. And examples of that data management include data from quality control and the assembly lines used to optimize processes. It also includes analysis of customer buying patterns, which allows us to tailor production to better meet customer needs. And then there's the data professionals and the systems they manage, an important part of our automation infrastructure. That includes the ERP systems that drive our factory and all decisions related to manufacturing, supply chain management, and shipping. The next is process automation. A very elementary definition of process automation is using technology to execute recurring activities to save labor. Now, looking back at the Haas factory tour, a large number of machine tools and robots are there not only to save manual labor, but to ensure consistency in the manufacturing process. That consistency is key to efficiency, which leads to better quality products built at a lower cost. That's how we're able to compete. Now, process automation also comes into play on the assembly floor at Haas, where we don't automate at the level of, for example, an auto manufacturer, but automation does show up in how we move materials and segment responsibilities into substations that are driven by a sophisticated ERP system. Finally, it's the people, once again, who bring it all together. Manufacturing engineers, machinists, and planners, for example, are key to developing the processes that make the factory run efficiently. And as I said earlier, people are key to automation. I've already explained how they fit into intelligence and process control, but this is a talk about people, not systems. So let's focus on the challenges of hiring and retaining a workforce with the necessary automation skills. Not every job in the factory requires automation-related expertise. In a well-designed, well-executed system, automation should help us drive efficiency and quality with skilled and unskilled workers alike. People do play a key role in the automation workforce, and we have two methods of growing that workforce to meet our needs. The first is formal education system. We rely heavily upon universities for skilled engineers and technicians to develop the processes and design the hardware used in the system. Examples of the schools providing that expertise currently are Cal Poly in San Luis Obispo and in Pomona, and Cal State Northridge. These are the people who design and develop the processes that drive most of the remaining workers at Haas. We also rely on the community colleges and technical training centers in the area for skilled machinists and technicians to program and set up the automated machine tools throughout the factory. On-the-job training is used for the more routine and repetitive jobs in the factory, and examples of that are machine operators, inventory workers, and assemblers. And then there's the traditional recruiting from other businesses to fill a wide variety of factory jobs. There are challenges to over-reliance on the education system. First, the pool of graduating students seldom matches our exact needs. It's not always the fault of education. Trying to gauge employment needs years in advance is a moving target, and students often choose the career path for reasons other than a job being in high demand. Graduating students often have biases about the industry they want to work in, and machine tool manufacturing isn't exactly considered the cool career by some. With the lure of SpaceX and Tesla, Apple and Google, Lockheed and Boeing, we really do compete for the best new talent. And gender bias is a real problem for manufacturing engineering. Depending on the source, statistics indicate that the percentage of women make up between 20 and 25% of graduates from STEM-based education today. And we find the percentage of women applying for jobs at Haas is even lower. Finally, distance from top schools presents a challenge too. Ventura County doesn't currently have a large number of automation-based training programs. There are challenges with on-the-job training as well. The additional time and effort required to train workers comes at a cost measured in dollars. And on-the-job training relies on the existing workforce, which is sometimes limited due to the shortage of qualified workers in our own factory. And recruiting has its challenges as well. First, it's relatively expensive to recruit workers, especially for jobs in the greatest demand. Recruiting is also difficult when you're competing against many of the industries perceived as cool, as I mentioned earlier. For example, who wouldn't want to work for SpaceX? There are challenges regardless of how we choose to hire new employees. such as the high cost of living right here in Ventura County. $2,000 rent for a one-bedroom apartment makes it tough to compete on a level playing field. And there's an overall stigma often associated with manufacturing. Visions of a dark, dirty place where our grandparents worked endless hours for low wages, which is far from the truth in most factories today, including Haas. Another challenge is holding on to the workforce that we currently employ. If employees aren't satisfied, they won't stay long. And we have to pay them competitive wages, provide good benefits, and ensure a comfortable working place. Haas pays industry average wages, but adds monthly bonuses for its employees, a 401k-based profit sharing plan, and above average wages. But we still lose people. Some of the challenges include constant competition for the best employees, a high cost of living that drives some people away. You know, we do our best to keep our people happy, but sometimes it's just not enough. Diversity and inclusivity is high on everybody's list when hiring. Let's talk about the challenges of hiring a truly diverse and inclusive workforce. I'll start with this. Haas hires the best candidate for the job, regardless of race, religion, or sexual persuasion. Equal opportunity, right? Unfortunately, equal opportunity doesn't look so equal when the pool of workers with the right skills is severely limited. I talked about the factors that combine to make for a limited pool of workers with the proper skills, factors related to limited numbers of students with the right skills, and the challenges of recruiting. I talked about the problem of women being underrepresented in STEM-based training programs. Same issue with minorities. And don't expect affirmative action quotas to solve the problem. Hiring people without the right skills will only result in lost productivity and loss of competitiveness. So whose job is it to ensure a diverse and inclusive workforce with the proper skills? Is it employers? Is it education? Is it government? Is it job seekers? Probably all of the above. Certainly more can be done by all to help drive a more diverse workforce to manufacturing and automation. So finally, I've been asked to comment on the effects of COVID-19 on our own workforce. I'll take you back to March. It was just as the governor was making his first decree shutting down businesses across the state. We made the decision to remain open. As a machine tool builder, we supply products and services to a large number of essential industries worldwide, including medical, agriculture, oil, and defense base. So the decision was simple for us, although a large number of measures were put into place to protect our workers. Initially, we put a freeze on hiring, but that didn't last for long. As it became clear that the rate of orders coming into the factory wasn't slowing, we resumed hiring, filling positions in engineering and certain automation-related roles that we consider essential. But one challenge that we encountered was recruiting from existing businesses. We found that certain candidates were reluctant to change jobs during the pandemic. It seems that a lot of people are delaying the decision until they feel a little more positive about conditions, economically and health-wise. Interestingly, many people are also asking for work from home programs, which we've taken advantage of for some of our workers. But many of them are asking to work remotely long-term, even after COVID-19 is over. And that'll be a challenge because we intend to bring back our remote workers after the pandemic eases. So that's the real impact of COVID-19 to Haas. And that's all for this presentation. So thank you for listening, and I hope that some part of this has been helpful in dealing with your own workforce challenges.
Thank you, Peter and Vlad. We're going to transition now to the Q&A portion of our program. I'm Melanie Salak. I'm one of the program specialists at the School of Management. And the way that you can ask your questions is you can put them in the chat box, or you can raise your hand. And to do that, you'll click on the participants button at the bottom of the screen. And then over on the right-hand side of your screen, there is a button labeled raise hand, and you'll be able to raise your hand and I'll be able to call on you.
It looks like Marin is raising their hand.
Good morning. I had two questions. First one, Peter, thank you so much for your presentation. I'm curious if you wouldn't mind sharing with us a little more about the thought process and business strategy in bringing back some of those workers that you have allowed to work remotely, and sort of the business considerations for allowing them to continue to work remote versus bringing them back. Obviously appreciating the fact that some jobs can't be done remotely, but I imagine you, like the rest of us, have some office employee, et cetera, that potentially could work remote full time.
Yes, true. We just saw some numbers actually that show that productivity is not down as a result. Now, obviously, factory workers are not working from home, but engineers, purchasing department, service department, sales department, marketing, accounting. These are all quite a few people, actually numbering in the hundreds, are working from home. They're productive. The numbers are very good. We're going to keep that in place. You know, the business decision is that we want to do that as long as it's needed to ensure that we keep our employment population down until we have a solution for COVID-19. We're concerned with spreading the disease in our factory, and we're doing everything to limit that. But once we get past this, we intend to bring everyone back again and to have them begin working from the factory.
Thank you.
Ed, we have a question for you. Do you see interpersonal skills as an important part of upskilling?
Yes, thank you, Melanie. Yes, absolutely. Interpersonal skills is something that we unfortunately don't teach much in business schools or elsewhere. And I think this is something that we need to reiterate and emphasize in both our curriculum and at work. Sometimes when people come to work, it's already too late. So it's something that you need to emphasize earlier, but definitely skills like communication, both oral and written, things like emotional intelligence, things like critical thinking. Those are all important skills that our workforce, no matter whether it's top management or it's middle management or it's shop floor employees, they should all possess. And if they didn't get it in school, it's upon us as employers to try and instill those skills, impart our knowledge, instill those skills in our employees. Absolutely. Very good question. Thank you.
Thank you. We have another question. It's asking, could you address the impact of the annual minimum wage impact on staffing levels or pricing levels?
I think it's for Peter, I guess.
I can try and answer that. So I assume this is more of a general question on the current state of minimum wage in our area. And so I'll answer it that way. It doesn't, you know, from our viewpoint, Haas Automation's viewpoint, it isn't a big impact because we were already significantly higher than minimum wage. Our minimum wage today is $17 an hour. We've always tried to remain above that. Of course, we expect a lot of employees in our type of an environment, but it's not an impact on us, but it certainly is an impact, I know, on some of our suppliers and trying to do business in our area, you know, with rising wages as well as a rising, you know, overall cost of living certainly is impacting people.
Thank you, Peter. We have another question for you too. They are asking, in your mind, does affirmative action always equal unqualified people being hired?
Good, interesting question. Well, we're not bound by any kind of affirmative action. Now, of course, we have our own system. You know, internally. We want to hire we would like to hire a diverse workforce, but I think the challenges are that we are faced with trying to hire the right person for the right job, and it could potentially, I suppose, drive you know, somebody with less than the right skills. But I think the real result of it is that you'll see a workforce that leans more towards I'd say white males right now, because that is what's coming out of schools for the most part. And I know, I don't believe that there's a compromise in the quality of the employee that we're getting right now. It's just the diversity, the lack of diversity in that workforce.
Thank you. We have another question. It is, productivity can only be defined in terms of product of human work over a certain period of time, like an hour. Why suffer unemployment when full-time employment can be defined for fewer hours during the day, when production will help of machines can be higher? Number of hours of work can be reduced, creative part of enjoying life can be enhanced, and AI can be with us in a harmonious way. This is from Jamshid. Also, affirmative action does have a negative impact on job markets. If the problem is not having the kind of skill sets among socioeconomic groups that benefit from affirmative action, we should invest through STEM to promote such skills.
In fact, both of the previous one, I asked questions. If you want, I can explain why I'm asking these questions. Both the previous ones.
Yeah, we've seen those, Jamshid, I think. Those are actually also statements. I absolutely agree on the second one, if you ask me, in terms of affirmative action, that it may have a negative impact on job markets, absolutely. In terms of the first statement, that productivity can be defined in terms of product of human work over a certain period of time, and we can reach full employment if the number of hours of work can be reduced, creative part of enjoying life, plus enhancing the use of artificial intelligence. It's aspirational, definitely. It's not something that is going to happen overnight, but it may happen. I mean, we just need to put our mind to it and have some consensus in our society, which is, as you know, is difficult to achieve at this point, to say the least. I don't know, Peter, do you have any other? Yeah.
May I just bring one issue? If you look at the industrialized country, OECD countries, the country that still has the highest number of works per week is the United States. You can find that the number of hours per week reduced remarkably in France, in Germany, in many other places, not even counting about the holiday time. We hang on to our 40 hours or near that and thinking that you just sent from above. That's not true. We can work less, get paid full, and not have as much unemployment impact. It shows that. That's in the research. You can see it.
Peter, would you like to comment on that a little bit, or?
Yeah, Vlad. I mean, we are a pretty productive nation. I realize that, but certainly can always do better. I want to comment on the earlier point that STEM-based education, we need to invest in STEM-based education. I think that is a really important point. And I think it's the responsibility of everyone that's involved in some form of production related business to invest in that. We do as well. We actually run a network of educational of schools, actually support for schools across the country for technical education, and our foundation invests in STEM-based programs, and a lot of those programs are designed to drive women and other minority groups to STEM-based careers. So I think it's something that we all have a responsibility to help with.
Thank you. Melanie, go ahead, sorry.
I was just going to say we are running out of time for our Q&A, and so I'm going to save all of these questions for the panel discussion.
Or keep them coming. I think Diana also said that we'll be introducing our panelists in a moment, so would like to address additional questions. Yeah, keep them coming. Specific questions, for example, for panelists who will be introduced later on, or for Peter or myself. Just please address who you want this question to answer. And then if we don't get a chance to answer those questions today, we will answer them later by email. So Peter, if you don't mind to address, yeah, thank you. I also don't mind. All right, thank you, Melanie. And we are continuing, right, Diana? Okay, so this is the time for our panel discussion, which is going to actually touch upon some of those subjects that we have discussed, both Peter and I, as well as some other important questions that we have heard from our audience previously, and questions that are asked by both practitioners and academics. So let me first of all introduce our moderator, Kim Congdon. Kim is the vice president let me start from the beginning. Kim Congdon is the vice president of global human resources and talent management at Herbalife Nutrition. She previously held the title of chief people officer at Fullscreen and managing director and chief human resource officer for the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences. She was responsible for leading human resources as well as the Academy's foundation, including leadership of the operation team, strategic planning, programming, education, and Margaret Herrick Library and the Academy's film archives. Kim was brought in to introduce best practices to a newly chartered organization with the ambitious goal of creating the world's only major museum dedicated solely to motion pictures. Prior to assuming her current role at Herbalife, Ms. Congdon served as the regional vice president of human resources for Time Warner Cable, with responsibility for over 9,000 employees. And during her tenure, Ms. Congdon reorganized human resources from 5 separate divisions to a regionalized structure. Kim's previous experience includes senior human resource positions in technology startups such as ePolicy and Ortel, which later become a part of Lucent, as well as a global entertainment role with Sony Pictures. She has a BS in psychology and communication from Emerson College in Boston, and is a graduate of the Advanced Human Resource Management program at the UCLA Anderson School of Management. Ladies and gentlemen, Ms. Kim Congdon.
Okay, so first of all, I had to unmute. That's the hardest part of the whole program. So thank you, Vlad, for that introduction. And with our panelists today, we have a great team of panelists. Lots of slides going through. But what I'm going to have them do is actually introduce themselves. And then we'll start hitting them hard with the questions and kind of go through some that we thought would be relevant to our discussion. And then please feel free to send additional questions as well, because we do want it to be interactive. But I'm really excited about the fantastic group of people we have today as our panelists. Amy Krause, who is the Vice President of Human Resources at Atara Biotherapeutics. Steph Murray, who is the Chief Diversity Officer and Vice President of Human Resources for Schnitzer Steel. Mark Ronk, who's Head of Talent and Leadership Development for the Cheesecake Factory, which always makes me hungry when I say that word. But anyway, Michael Stolz, who is the president of Corwin, which is a Sage publishing company, and Drew West, who's the general manager of academic partnerships for the Trade Desk. So the full bios are attached to this. Hopefully you've had a chance to take a look at that. But what I'm going to do is just sort of go down the line here and ask each panelist if they wouldn't mind saying a few keywords about themselves, and then we'll dive right into the discussion. Amy, could you welcome, first of all. So nice to see you again. And if you wouldn't mind telling us a little bit about yourself, just briefly, and then we'll move down the line.
Absolutely. So thank you everybody for having me here today. My name is Amy. I work for a startup biotech, I would say the cool biotech company in town, here in Thousand Oaks, California. I've got about 25 years of human resources experience in different areas. And I am a proud undergraduate as well as MBA graduate from California Lutheran University, and am happy to be here today. Thank you.
Thanks, Amy, and great shout out for Calou. Look at the quality we're turning out. All right, Steph, want to tell us a little bit about yourself? Steph Murray?
Of course. Hi, I'm Steph Murray. I'm so happy to be here today and very excited that Vlad thought I could add something to this panel discussion. I am the Chief Diversity Officer and Vice President of Human Resources for Schnitzer Steel. We are a scrap metal recycling company. So we take metal from every source you can imagine, and we process it, and we provide raw materials to different companies. I've been in human resources for about 25 years and have really had a passion for people, processes, diversity, and inclusion, and looking forward to this exciting panel discussion.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Steph. Appreciate that. Mark, you want to take it away and share a little bit about yourself? And again, the full bios are available for each of our impressive talent panelists.
Thank you, Kim, and hello to everyone. Again, my name is Mark Ronk. I head up talent and leadership development for the Cheesecake Factory. I've been in the HR and OD space for about 22 years. I've also spent a lot of time actually in the CPG space, in addition to working for the not so cool biotech in town as well. So I'm looking forward to the discussion today. Really exciting to talk about some of the organizations that you would not think about in terms of automation, and happy to join this panel. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. I don't know. I think I think both are cool, to be honest with you, but that's just my opinion. And Mike Souls, Mike, would you share a little bit about your background?
Yeah, happy to. Thanks, Kim, very much. This is the first time I've had a dress shirt on since March 19th, so I dressed up for all of you. I'm Mike Soule from Sage Publishing. We're a private, family-owned business. We are one of the largest academic publishers in the world. We've got 2,000 employees globally. I'm the president of Corwin, which is our K-12 publishing and professional learning division. Have 3 sons in college right now, which means I'll be in the workforce until I'm 80. And I am very proud to be a member of the CLU Board of Regents. Looking forward to this afternoon.
Thank you, Mike. Thanks so much. And Drew, tell us a little bit about yourself as well, please.
Thank you, Kim, and thank you to the audience. It's an honor to be here today. I'm with the Trade Desk, General Manager of Academic Partnerships. Trade Desk started in an incubator at Ventura City Hall back in 2009 with 6 individuals, and we've since grown to 1,500 team members around 27 locations globally. We're an advertising technology partner. What does that mean? Basically, we work with brands and enable them to have more intimate communication and relationships with consumers. We're looking at about 11 million opportunities to connect those consumers with the advertisers every second of the day. So that's about a trillion transactions each and every day, 365 days a year. Most recently, I've started our academic partnerships program, and it touches on many of the things that Peter mentioned in his keynote address, specifically around working with schools to build the educational programs in areas of focus, not just for the Trade Desk, but to help students, especially students of underrepresented populations, have an opportunity to thrive in the advertising and the digital economy. So thank you for being here.
Oh, yeah, thank you, Drew. You know, before we dive into some other questions, I'm just curious about what are some of the things that Trade Desk is doing regarding those partnerships, and even more so, you know, how did that commitment get made?
We could take up the rest of the seminar or the webinar here, but I'll try to keep it brief. When I started with the Trade Desk, there were 100 employees, and we were growing at a rapid rate, which we still are. And we found that, to Peter's comments, we weren't seeing talent coming out of the schools that really met the mark specifically for what we were looking at. So we started to transition into relationships with faculty, directly with professors, to provide coaching and assistance and resources and subject matter experts with an industry that's so cutting edge, like advertising technology. It's difficult for any educator to keep abreast of all the changes that are occurring. But when you have an industry that's evolving so quickly, bringing those subject matter experts to the table really helps kind of augment that capability. We back that up also with a certification program. We have the Trade Desk Edge Academy, which is an online certification program that allows students to go through a number of different modules or courses. Some are 10 hours, some are 4 hours, and gain a certification that not only gives them the education, but also differentiates them in the job market. And we're also providing internships as well. So to give you a couple of concrete examples, Cal State University and Calou, we've hired many students out of those institutions. Both of them are Hispanic serving institutions. We're also working with Howard University and Morgan State University, which are HBCUs, most recently to really bolster their advertising and digital advertising programs. So those are some of the concrete activities that we're working on, in addition to internships that we're running on a seasonal basis. So it's working.
Wow, that's very impressive, and I think that's huge. And kind of sticking with that theme for a moment, I thought we would hear from Amy maybe about, what kinds of things would you like to see from an education standpoint to prepare graduating students to be ready to work at Atara, for example? Are there specific courses, majors? What would be ideal to have the best available talent walk into, or be available to walk into your organization?
Unmute, that was the hardest part, you're right. So some of the things, so technical skills, obviously those are one of those things. So the hard skills or the technical skills, and we look to schools to bring that to us. One of the and to combine a little bit on the topic of bringing females into the workplace and manufacturing, Atara also has manufacturing. We partner with a school called Keck in the Claremont School, and we were able to hire 100% new grads of females into our manufacturing group. 80% of those were women of color. Really excited about that, and that's about taking affirmative steps to reach deep. But one of the things that we look for in students, and we do screen obviously for some core technical capabilities, but what schools could do a little bit better on, I would think, or I would look for, is a bit more in terms of, it was touched on before, maybe a little bit on the EQ, kind of what to expect in a company or corporate environment. What are kind of the, this may sound silly, how should you come dressed to work? Like, what is acceptable, what is not? I think a little bit more in that category. We're finding that, especially when we're hiring new grads that are undergrads on the bachelor side, we tend to have to do a little bit more there than we would like. But we find that hiring right out of school and training up is highly effective. We tend to focus a little bit more on the master's level students, but for our manufacturing capabilities, absolutely on the undergrads.
Great, that's great. And in addition to what Drew spent time on, all the amazing programs that the Trade Desk has implemented, is there anything else that you would recommend from a corporate partnership that either you're doing or you're thinking about doing?
In terms of technical skills?
Just in terms of making sure that, not necessarily technical, because you mentioned EQ, but just in terms of trying to get the candidates that are going to be likely to be successful.
For us, specifically, like I said, we're looking for candidates that have that biology background. So the biological skills, we are doing cell therapy manufacturing. So again, we're partnering with schools that have familiarity and deep experience in cell therapy and biologics, chemistry, molecular biology.
Great. All right. Thank you so much, Amy.
Thank
you.
you.
Really good to hear. Yeah. And Mike, what about you? What kinds of things that, from an education standpoint, are there specific courses or majors that you think they're either not there or they need a bigger push to get people into that would be important for Corwin to find the right people when it's time to hire?
Well, I think we're kind of on both sides of the fence on this, in the sense of we are a publisher and do training. So we do a lot of work at the high school and middle school level in terms of STEM and really promoting STEM and that sort of work, as well as other areas that are new, like data science, which are going to be very, very important as we begin to move into the future. But also just providing the kinds of tools so that students can really own their own learning and be the masters of their own destiny in terms of whatever it is that they want to go into. That's from the external standpoint. From an internal standpoint, much like Drew, we're working very closely with Kowloon and Channel Islands, both HSIs, in terms of providing paid internships, especially for, which allows us to attract a much more diverse population. And we really want to train them in what publishing technology looks like. Publishing is not a traditional business that a lot of minority candidates come into. And so we have got to work very hard to break down those walls and make it as accessible as possible. And that's what we're investing in.
Yeah, so that makes sense. So the way to get their mindset is you have to start even at that middle school level to kind of get them thinking, hey, maybe this is something that I can do. That's great. Really, really interesting. Thank you. Yeah, one of the things that kind of comes to mind that we touched on earlier, but we didn't get to from a question standpoint, that I'm going to ask Steph maybe to handle, is in terms of automation. Do you see automation having a positive effect, negative effect, a neutral effect in terms of diversity, equity, and inclusion? What are your thoughts on that, Steph?
Great question. I think it really has a positive effect because what we're doing is we're creating new opportunities. So I think it's really incumbent upon society and employers in general to find ways to offer those skills to up-and-coming employees, either through internship programs. We have management and training programs. We have a technical training program that's part of our IT department. But I really think we have to be very creative in terms of how we upskill our workforce to prepare for these new opportunities that are going to be created based on automation. And then just to add to some of the other points about diversity and inclusion, and I think Amy spoke about partnerships to help hire more women. We're doing something similar at our company as we're establishing partnerships with HBCUs, historically Black colleges and universities. And I'm based in Atlanta, and there's several right here. So our intent is to really get those tight partnerships established and do some early hiring through internships, et cetera, to make sure that the workforce is prepared for what's to come in the future, because automation is here. It's here, it's coming, so let's embrace it, let's get ready for it, and let's make sure our workforce is prepared and that we're able to attract diverse candidates.
Yeah, no, that's great. I actually worked on a program when I was at the academy it was actually an entertainment industry-wide, which they HBCUs, which you're in Atlanta, so a lot easier. We actually had to set it up so that there was housing and stipends and that kind of thing to make that kind of commitment, because there's some unbelievable talent there that would have never thought that they could have gotten into the entertainment industry just like Mike was talking about the publishing industry. There's industries they don't, think, oh, that's not for me because, whatever the reasons. So that's a great talent pool that you're tapping into. Great. So one of the other things that is top of mind for people are, what changes are we seeing in the digital transformation as a result of COVID-19? And I'm sure we all have something to say about that. But Mark, why don't we start with you and see, what kinds of changes are you seeing?
Yeah, thanks for the question, Kim. I was on a webinar back in April, and one of the polling questions was, who is driving your digital strategy? And the choices were, was it your IT department? Was your finance department? Was it one of your key executives? And answer D was COVID-19, right? So we're seeing in many organizations that the overnight move to digital strategy and digitization as a key competency in the organization literally happened for many organizations overnight. My organization is no exception to that. We saw that we quickly had to start working from home and doing things a lot differently. We consider ourselves a support center and not really a corporate office. And so having bodies and chairs and making sure that we're there supporting our 40,000 employees and over 240 restaurants is really important to us. And so by default, we saw that strategy was largely driven, particularly in an organization that really does value people in the office, into this digital strategy. It's also really requiring us to take a harder look at where automation and other types of digitization may be important in our industry. You don't typically see or consider a restaurant and hospitality sector to be a high tech or high prime sector for automation, but like many organizations, we're seeing it come into the workplace and really become more prevalent because of our need to be more efficient, our need to streamline costs around protecting the balance sheet, and other things that are really just put organizations in the survival mode. So you can typically then leverage AI and digitization as a component of becoming more efficient, really making sure that you're protecting the bottom line. And some of the things that we're doing in our organization are back office implementations. So you think about your month-end close in finance. You think about supply chain management. We do over $2 billion a year in sales. That's a lot of raw ingredients that we're moving throughout our network and throughout the organization. The more automation that we have to that, the more efficient that we can be, the more we can streamline and put human capital in the places where we need human capital. So while you see restaurant and hospitality, you'll never walk into a cheesecake, hopefully in my lifetime, that is going to be with a robot taking your order and fully automated and robotic kitchen staff. It has to be aligned with the culture of the organization. We're a from scratch, make it fresh organization. And so leveraging digitization in those key back office areas and in other key areas to drive efficiency is really where we're seeing it in our organization, but still being true to our culture and being true to our core competency, which is great fresh food. So that's hopefully answered your question a bit, Kim, in terms of what we're seeing with the effects of COVID, with digitization, and the need to become a much more efficient organization. Thanks.
Yeah, no, thank you. I mean, Mark, I thought that you would probably have the most relevant and most impactful experiences. All of us, obviously, everyone in the world has been impacted by the COVID-19 pandemic. Yeah. But given, hospitality, restaurants, it's just a whole nother level of impact. So I think that, I just really feel like you guys have done an incredible job managing that. The other thing that I was wondering, or not wondering, but there's also a lot of technology in the restaurants themselves, right? You're not going to have, God forbid, ever have like, I just had this picture in my mind of, you know, the drive-up windows with the really bad speakers. Like, I can't imagine like that. Like you said, in your lifetime, and I hope mine as well, nothing like that would ever happen at Cheesecake. But there is so much, you know, low touch or no touch technology within the restaurants themselves that have that's really, I would think, allowed you to manage through the pandemic better than, you know, if you hadn't had invested in that.
Absolutely, and supply chain is a really core area to take a look at. As you can imagine, our entire supply chain department is working from home. What we've seen with shortages across the board in raw ingredients because of other manufacturing facilities and raw ingredient manufacturers not being able to produce. And so our ability to be extremely precise with inventory management systems based on 40 years of historical data to really help drive a lot of automation and automatic decision making, again, really provides us with a lot of those efficiencies so that we can ensure that we're not running out of product for our guests, that we're really pinpointing how to best lay out our labor strategy based on partially open restaurants, and what are the other types of automation that can truly allow our managers. You know, if you go to a Cheesecake, we're typically very busy, and time is the biggest resource that our managers have. Anything that we can do to free up time, a chatbot is a great example. We need to hire staff. Let's leverage technology and AI so that the scheduling of applicants can be done automatically. It can be done without human intervention. People can go and text apply to a job, and next thing you know, they're talking to an automated assistant. That automated assistant is inquiring about their skills. It's showing them where jobs are currently located with their skill set, in addition to helping schedule them for an interview. So those are the types of automation and really support mechanisms in my type of organization that still allow us to live up our core competency around fresh, delicious food, but also become as efficient as we can be leveraging automation.
Great, thanks so much. Thanks so much. Does anyone else want to jump in on that question as well, in terms of what you're seeing in terms of changes because of the results of the pandemic?
Yeah, I'd be happy to if you don't mind.
Great. Go ahead, Mike.
I think probably the industry that has been most resistant to technology and automation is K-12. And because of that, to put it in Vlad's terms, what do we do as Corwin? We're a talent management business. We upskill educators in K-12 and higher ed so that they can positively impact student achievement. And we do that in the same mode that they have, which is stand and deliver. And so time and space become very important to us in terms of how we manage our talent that's going out and doing training and consulting. And so when you've got peak capacity days, you've got real challenges. Teachers want the stand and deliver model because they love the stand and deliver model. And we have offered virtual and digital offerings in the past, and they never sold or did anything. In March, our business stopped. Zero. Why? Because schools stopped. Zero. We now are in the midst of the greatest social science experiment that has ever happened before. We have teachers that are working remotely. That would never have been contemplated in the past. We have students doing exactly what we're doing right now, sitting in little tiny boxes and interacting with each other or not. This is not necessarily the place for a 7-year-old to sit and learn. We had to adapt, and so we had to turn our model upside down and digitize everything in a matter of weeks. And the team has done that, which has been absolutely extraordinary. We now can't keep up with demand because time and space now are irrelevant. When we've got the rock stars in education who do big workshops and consulting, we can stack their days so that they're doing a presentation for a New York City group and then a Midwest group and then a California group, tripling the capacity that they've got or the training that we've got. Just a little product placement and I'll stop. We rush this to market. This is called the Distance Learning Playbook. Most titles take a year to create. We did this in 6 weeks, manufacturing out into Amazon. It is the #1 trade book bestseller in the United States right now. That has never happened to us in the past. And it's because it's hitting the market at the time with the topic that they need, and embedded are QR codes with video exemplars. It's meeting the market where it is. It's us being reactive and proactive. And the COVID-19 piece has changed our business and will change the K-12 industry forever.
Wow, that's fascinating, Mike. Now, with such a big change in a matter of weeks, did you all just, completely brainstorm, or did you get help from the outside? I mean, people just stepped up and figured it out, or how did you go about that? Because that is really, you turned everything on its head, and that's unbelievable in terms of getting that out in such a short period of time, and clearly was just the right thing for the market at the time.
It's amazing how focused you can get in your priorities when it's an existential threat. And I use that word with my team, not to scare them, but to be realistic about the fact of what we're doing. We are a people business, and people are expensive. And so we've got to find as many ways to be as effective and efficient as possible in the work that we're doing. And we also know that educators don't know what they're doing now in this environment. Every single one of your kids' teachers are a first-year teacher this year. They don't know how to engage. And if those teachers don't have a relationship that's pre-existing with your child, it's going to be really hard for them to teach. And so we have to marshal our resources in this time to say, we understand we've got something that is affecting all of us. What can we do to really get to the basics, hunker down, and move? And it's been working on both sides. School districts did not plan for a pandemic, and they have never had distance learning as part of what work that they're doing. They will now forever. And so we are starting right at the baby steps of what is good instructional practice. How do I engage? What happens if Amy begins to talk in class? It's all that stuff. So we're just going to blocking and tackling, bread and butter, and it's really helping make a difference. And I think it's I think it's going to. I know it's changing our business completely, and it's accelerated for all of us. I'm scared about it, and I'm excited about it.
It's great. Thank you. Yeah, both, right? What doesn't kill us will make us stronger. Thank you. Thanks, Mike. I really appreciate it. And then I wanted to ask the same thing of Drew, because I know this is an area also that's near and dear to your heart in terms of some of the things that you're seeing on the digital transformation regarding COVID-19.
Yeah, this is a topic I follow very closely. Thank you. And if there was any possible silver lighting out of COVID-19, I think it's causing us to change. It's causing us to move forward in a number of areas that maybe we were resistant, hesitant, or not prioritizing. A good example of that is some of the educational programs that we were putting forth. We anticipated that to take 3 to 5 years to really implement and get out there on a global scale, and that occurred with COVID. That's occurring now, and we'll hit our 3-year goals within a year of teaching in a different methodology. We were already focused on a virtual delivery methodology so that we could scale it. And what we found was when COVID hit, educators were, to Mike's point, educators are scrambling for resources, for information, it was uncharted territory. And talk about hitting the market at the right time in the right place. We just happened to be re-releasing our certification content at that time, and it just hit at the right point. And it's now being used by 44 schools around the world this fall in the classroom. So that's something that we've seen. But more importantly, I think what we're seeing is just a wholesale shift to the digital economy, which is something that was going to happen over time anyway. It's just accelerated so rapidly that some of those who were less in less of a favorable position are the ones that are being impacted the most, I think, negatively. And those are the ones that I think we need to make sure that we're not leaving behind, because there is a whole segment of the economy or a whole segment of the population that don't have internet connectivity or don't have the digital skill sets to be able to participate in this type of a forum, for example. There's going to be some pretty serious consequences on the downside in that area as well.
Yeah, that's very true. I mean, one of the things, Steph, you had mentioned about the fact that there's a lot of opportunity for it to create a level playing field. But what are your thoughts about it doing the opposite? Because I do have some concerns that because of schools right now that are just so challenged, primary schools, that we'll actually see a deeper divide in terms of people being ready and qualified. What are your thoughts on that and things that we might be able to do around that?
It's interesting. We're actually partnering with some of the local elementary schools and high schools in the various communities that we serve. We're currently in 28 states and about 100 locations. So we believe we have to start early in terms of partnering and really helping. And we also have some entry-level positions that people can perform in our operations, and then hope, and then they can stay with us and still advance and grow their career. But this is a big societal issue, I think, with the conversation regarding students working from home now, and everyone doesn't have access to internet, and different groups are starting to put hotspots out there on school buses and just find very creative ways to really provide access. But I think it starts early in terms of partnering with various organizations. And again, it's going to take a group effort and a societal shift, because one's socioeconomic background shouldn't impede them from really experiencing the best that you can get from being in this country and having the desire to grow, learn, and develop. And we've had many conversations about that, but currently with us, we're really starting early. We're partnering with elementary schools, trade schools, high schools, and we're starting early internship programs, and then we're moving that into higher education as well, like I spoke to earlier. But this is a 50-year problem. This is not something we're going to solve in the next 5-10 years. I think COVID-19 is helping to accelerate that. So I think, to earlier comments, if there is a silver lining with this pandemic, it's really starting those conversations and having people and companies and corporations put some real programs in place for long-term systemic change.
Yeah. I think it just makes it so much more visible, right? I mean, because you can't work in a company without knowing about a person that you're on a Zoom with, and there's kids crawling all over them because they're in the 2nd grade and the 4th grade, and they're trying to do their Zooms, and it just makes it just puts it out there so much more clearly. That I agree that is a silver lining of that visibility of some of the pain that's been there but is exacerbated. So thank you, Steph. That's great. I mean, starting in elementary, that's something that I don't think employers have really thought of previously. So that I think is pretty innovative and important at this point. So to sort of mix it up a little bit, I know the audience has been sending in some questions, and Michelle, if you wouldn't mind picking one and throwing it out there, and we'll just throw it out to whomever would like to grab it on the panel.
Okay, I have one here. It's actually a couple of questions combined. It was asking, have you considered directly leveraging established networks of qualified women and underrepresented professionals to make an immediate impact in recruiting via the Society of Hispanic Professional Engineers, National Society of Black Engineers, and Society of Women Engineers, and numerous other diverse STEM organizations?
I'm happy to jump in on that one. So absolutely, and I'm very familiar with some of those organizations. In fact, ATARA is actually very closely tied to HBA, Healthcare Businesswomen's Association, we actually tell all of our staff, and we've put an early focus on, as a startup company in creating a women's organization, we actually pay or kind of reimburse staff who want to get a membership in each of those organizations. But absolutely, we leverage those networks. There's also HBA and other women's organizations that have student chapters that we tap into. They have, career resources. So there's all kinds of creative ways that we're able to tap into some of those organizations to reach into those communities.
It's great. Anyone else have something to add?
Yeah. I could follow Amy briefly. In 2 weeks, we'll be attending the Grace Hopper event. It'll be a virtual event this year, and that targets minorities and female in particular areas of the industry that we're in. Also working with Society of Engineering, as well as Girls Who Code, and different organizations that are specifically tailored to helping populations that don't normally see an opportunity in a particular technology field start to break through and become make it a possibility for them on their future trajectory. And then finally, we've been sponsoring American Advertising Federation chapters throughout schools that have been not able to fund those chapters themselves. And these are bringing young professionals into a technology field related to advertising that gives them another kind of lens into what's possible for their career in the future. So
those are great to add. Yeah, Amy and Drew, I mean, I'm hoping that people are taking notes, because these are all really good organizations that, anyone can get involved with that is looking to put some energy around developing the staff of the future thing.
Melanie, I'm sorry, Kim, as a host, may I interject for a second, because I've been receiving also some questions.
Yeah, please.
And if you don't mind, and I'm going to combine for the sake of time before again Melanie will ask a few questions from the audience. There are questions regarding the increase in the use of artificial intelligence and automation, getting back a little bit more to our topic at hand. So with the increase of the use of artificial intelligence in particular and automation in general, what talent competencies do you think is worth looking for or developing in current workforce? So we're looking for talent competencies, right? We can, whoever wants to jump in, please go ahead. Thank you.
Vlad, I'd like to jump in on that. This is going to be counterintuitive a little bit, because I think most would go toward a STEM solution potentially. But I think there's something prior to STEM that we're finding, and Amy alluded to this in her comments, are things like, foundational literacies around, just basic literacy, math skills, scientific and computer-based skills, of course. But then the ones that we're finding that are absent are things like critical thinking, complex problem solving, the creative skills, and those collaboration skills, wrapped around a set of qualities like curiosity and persistence, adaptability, and those types of things. Those are things that we're seeing where we need to really focus on developing that more at a much earlier age in the classroom, I think, and in society, for us to be able to compete. And ultimately, what it comes down to is lifelong learning. The world's changing. In 2020, it's changed in a number of different ways for many people, and it'll continue to change at a rapid clip. And to prepare our future workforce and our students to be able to adapt and have that critical thinking and complex problem solving, discerning reality from non-reality, those types of things are really key.
Drew, that's great. And I just wanted to piggyback on that a little bit. We could hire anybody that could put together a spreadsheet or put together a bar graph. I want the person that's going to say, so what? This is what you should take from it. Here's what I think of it. Here's the kind of the future and where we should be going and how we should be thinking about things differently. So don't just stop at that hard skill. Give me the other side of that. What do you think?
Yeah.
Just to add to that too, the real concrete example in terms of the evolution of our marketing department, for example. It's not too many years ago that the skills we were looking for in addition to all the critical skills that Amy and Drew just talked about, was really technical skills of a typesetter and literally people that were cutting things up and making things. The most sophisticated feedback we got out of marketing was a business reply card and whether somebody replied or didn't reply so we could measure success. But today we've got marketing automation that is very sophisticated. And what it requires is that the folks who are in our marketing department, the skill that they've got to have is to be able to answer the questions that Drew and Amy just talked about, which is they actually have to understand every piece of the customer journey and what is it that the customer is dealing with in their own life? What's the stresses and strains? What's the leverage point? So that they can build these very sophisticated drip campaigns that all of us in work may or may not see that are happening. And they're pushing information out and using content in a way that's much more sophisticated. And so if you're dealing with content, you've got to be able to read it, understand it, discern it, and know when to push it to that person at what time. And then getting much more of a 360 view of what that customer is. You know, the creepiest thing in the world that we've all experienced is going on Amazon, looking at a book, and then that book or that shoe or whatever follows you every place. But it works. And it's very different in terms of how we interact with our customers and the kind of skills we need from our marketing team.
And Vlad, to kind of piggyback on the topic of how this relates to AI, for example, the skills that we're talking about are human skills that can be complemented by AI. Yeah, AI can mine massive amounts of data that no human being possibly could, and inform the human being to be able to use those creative skills to then power the future of our economy, basically. So that's fundamentally what I believe. Yeah.
Because it's never meant to substitute for interpersonal skills, for high-level skills that you've mentioned before, systems thinking and critical thinking. Amy also mentioned. So what, right? That's what we teach, critical thinking as well. So thank you very much for answering these questions. Melanie.
We have another question. It's how does AI and digitalization help in the area of racial equity or hinder it?
So I'd been at a conference recently, just to give you an example, and I don't recall the company that was being cited at the actual conference, but it was actually a little bit of a warning. There was a tech company, I'm going to say Google or Facebook, I don't remember the exact company, where they had trained AI to look at the backgrounds and the resumes of their most talented engineers. And what they'd kind of unwittingly or unknowingly done is trained it to essentially pick up on things that lend preference to white males who are already in that job class, whether it was the words that were being used on the resumes, the schools that they were coming from, and they had unknowingly created kind of a disparate system, and the AI had actually kind of trained itself to unwittingly look for white males or give preference to white males. So that was just a story that I'd heard recently at a conference where the AI went a little haywire, so to speak.
And hey, just to add to that, some of the things that we're trying to do, to add to Amy's point, is really take bias out of our process. So with our resumes, we are taking names because certain names can be identified with certain races. So we're taking names out of our resumes, we're taking schools out of the resumes, and we're really focused on the qualifications for the positions. We're looking at our job descriptions and making sure the qualifications are really what we need and we aren't accidentally excluding people. And that's been really eye-opening. Just by doing that, we've been able to significantly increase our diverse hiring pools. And to Amy's point, we've been unintentionally screening out very qualified candidates based on our preconceived notions.
Yeah, so this one I saw from the audience, and it was also one that I was really curious about as well, and Drew touched on it just briefly, but how are critical and creative skills currently being measured, using AI, and from a broader perspective, how can AI help with those with that creativity? Drew, do you want to continue on with that, or?
Yeah, I was trying to wrap my head around how you measure creative skills. That's a difficult thing to quantify. I think the way we look at it at the Trade Desk particularly is it's about the ability to be, you know, what's the productivity of an individual, and what's that look like when they're handed or given artificial intelligence tools to then leverage their creativity based upon more information. To Vlad's point, you know, the different phases of AI. We haven't hit phase 4, but we are pushing between phase 2 and phase 3 with our platforms. And to be able to see the level of productivity and the level of performance that we're able to deliver to our clients in a competitive, very competitive marketplace, and compete extremely effectively because of that combination. I think that's how we're looking at it. I'm not sure I could say that any one person on this call is more creative than another and put any kind of metrics behind that with credibility.
Great. Anyone else have anything to add about how AI might be enhancing creativity? Mike, did you have anything you want to share about that?
It wouldn't be AI specific, again, because we're a little bit in the Stone Age on the K-12 side. We're going to get there, and this is going to help us. We collect lots and lots of data, and part of what we do in the work that we've got is we've got the largest database of what works in education. Literally billions of lines of code that take all of the journal articles that have done research, and we've got 250 effect sizes. Now, these are looking at what impact does a different instructional move have for different kinds of kids. And again, this is to help educators really understand how to evaluate their own impact. What we believe is that every student deserves 1 year's worth of growth over 1 year's time. And so if you begin to disaggregate that back, how do you begin to collect the data on your own work? Because if the student didn't learn, then you didn't do your job. So how do we start from that standpoint of really getting students to own their learning, and you being very clear about what learning intentions are and success criteria, and then gathering the data so that you can analyze that. Now, again, we're still at the baby nascent steps of that, but it is the gold standard in terms of what parents, policymakers, and pundits have been looking for, because we actually do have some predictive measures around what can work in what situation with some good measure. But again, just starting.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, as you understand, the future of work is not coming, it's here. And, you know, we all have to embrace it, I guess. And we all need to take advantage of it and eliminate its downsides or disadvantages as much as possible. And that's how we can really take advantage of what's coming our way. And with that, we have come to the conclusion of our forum. I truly hope that you're leaving with some new knowledge, useful insights and tips, and in general with some excitement about the topic of automation and talent management. No matter what industry you're in, no matter what country you're from, and we had representatives from a few countries today joining us from Europe, people management is the most important aspect of your organization. As both research and practice show, tremendous initiatives to attract, recruit, deploy, engage, motivate, develop, and retain your key talent will continue to be a top priority for organization leaders across the globe. And therefore, we will continue our efforts aimed at bringing this cutting-edge knowledge from academics and practitioners alike for years to come. And we'll hope that you will be joining us also for years to come, because we have in this 5 years created a good community. And, you know, I got to tell you that 75% of those who came up who showed up today are our, you know, constant customers, I would say, frequent buyers, frequent flyers, whatever you want to call it, right? You are our community. I would like to thank all of you for your attendance and your participation, for excellent breakout room discussions. But specifically, I would like to thank our keynote speaker, Peter Zirhat, our moderator, Kim Congdon, our panelists, Steph Murray, Amy Krause, Mike Soule, Drew West and Mark Rong. I also would like to thank the members of the organizing committee for this year's event, Susan Van Vliet, Loredana Carson, and Kim Congdon. At last, but certainly not least, our School of Management staff, our star-studded staff, Susan Wood, without whom it would not be possible, Diana Fielding, Melanie Selak, as well as Chris Baldwin from ITS. I look forward to hearing from all of you soon, ladies and gentlemen, and you will hear from us before too long as well. Thank you, and have a great day. Have a great day, everyone. Thank you, and goodbye.